The fallout continues over the killing of Iranian Quds Force General Qasem Soleimani. The U.S. preemptively gearing up some 3,000 troops to head to the Middle East in the coming days as Tehran threatens American targets as retaliation. The president tweeting up a storm to justify this unilateral action, receiving mixed reaction from a surprised Congress. His latest tweet, a proclamation that Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. And in a move that has shaken the world and U.S. allies, Iran flat out saying they will no longer abide by any terms of the 2015 JCPOA, causing NATO to call ambassadors in for an urgent meeting in Brussels over this Iran-Iraq crisis. Meanwhile, thousands taking to the streets to mourn the fallen general in a nationwide observance as the supreme leader openly weeps the loss of his confidant. So the whole world is reacting to this surprise strike on Qasem Soleimani, with the UK's Tory government echoing U.S. sentiment towards Iran. For reaction from across the pond, let's turn to former UK MP George Galloway. George, good to see you. Unfortunate circumstances here. Iraq's official government now passing a resolution to rid the country of any foreign troops, obviously aimed directly at the U.S., but other troops are there as well, including UK forces. Boris Johnson's administration is asking Baghdad not to include them in this banishment. What vital work are UK forces doing in Iraq?
Well, imagine the film Zulu, but without the happy ending. 700 British military, there for apparently training purposes, surrounded by millions of people whose parliament has just ordered them to leave and who now hate them. That would be foolhardiness in the extreme if Boris Johnson were to echo Donald Trump and decide that they were staying anyway, whatever the Iraqi government, parliament and people decided. So I expect that the UK government will see the writing on the wall and pull their forces out. Ditto the other NATO members, excluding the US. Donald Trump has said that the United States will simply ignore the Iraqi demand that they leave, or charge them billions of dollars for an airbase that they built with Iraq's money in the first place, and or impose sanctions on Iraq that will make the sanctions on Iran look like a tea party. So you really couldn't make all this up, Manila. At one stroke, Donald Trump has united the disparate Iraqi forces against the United States, unified the Iranian people, mourning the loss of the general in their millions, reformers and hardliners alike. Indeed, even the Iranian diaspora, even in the United States, people are responding in a national way, in a nationalistic way. Hey, the art of the deal, how to turn the entire world against you in killing just one man.
And George, Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab had this to say about Soleimani.
The US will take their own operational judgment call, but they've got the right of self-defense. If you look at what General Soleimani was doing, he's not some victim in this scenario. He was a regional menace. I don't think we should be naive about the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or indeed General Soleimani.
Now, he called him a regional menace. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's grotesque and, of course, utterly bonkers. Far from being a regional menace, Soleimani was the hammer of ISIS and al-Qaeda, particularly in Iraq, but also with the other allies in Syria too. Far from being a regional menace, he did more than any other single person to destroy the actual regional menace, which is ISIS and al-Qaeda. And indeed, he was working in concert with the United States military in Iraq to crush ISIS and al-Qaeda and the other extremist factions. So talk about rewriting history. This is a very reckless talk from the geographically challenged British Foreign Secretary. There's a joke going around today that he's ordered the entire Royal Navy to the South Atlantic because he's well known now for getting his geography mixed up. This is reckless talk, not least because Britain has a prisoner Nazanin Ratcliffe, who is being unjustly held in an Iranian prison and whose whole position is now placed in greater jeopardy by this slovenly, lazy, ignorant talk by British ministers, including the British Prime Minister.
Now, George, one of your leaders is not the only one confusing things on a map. Our own president, Donald Trump, has confused Quds Force with Kurds, so it's not just Dominic Raab that's got some confusion on maps. And now, George, you and I have actually discussed maritime policy before along the Strait of Hormuz, but now the British Navy is set to escort any UK-flagged ships through the region. Is this move necessary, or might this actually increase tensions in the region?
Well, the Queen doesn't have enough ships to protect British assets in the Persian Gulf, and indeed she's only been able to spare 2 for this escort duty. And if Iran gets serious about blocking the Straits of Hormuz, then the entire Royal Navy would not be able to break that blockade. The simple act of setting it on fire would put paid to that. These kind of actions, like the presence of 700 British trainers in Iraq, are actually provocations rather than any kind of effective defense. And the more that Britain lines up behind Donald Trump at a time when most of America and almost all of the world has turned against him over this act, the more that Britain lines up behind him, the more he's placing our people in serious jeopardy. And that's not what people elect a government to do.
Yeah.
The German and French governments have been unequivocal in denouncing this act, which is scarcely the act of a sane man, Manila. I want to stress that point. It cannot be fathomed how insane, unhinged it is to kill one man and turn tens of millions of Iranians out into the street demanding your blood in revenge. That doesn't make any sense.
Certainly a more volatile way to kick off the new year, George. We'll have to leave it right there. As always, appreciate your insights on this. George Galloway, thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.